Except with the ATF, they don't even claim to be experts.
You know, I'm about to sign into law bipartisan gun safety legislation.
So the shooter can shoot the pistol with one hand.
Completely overshadowed the robust conversations that we had with the governor in the office.
This rule redefined firearms with stabilizing braces.
Those laws will still be in effect until first the Court of Appeals hears it in New York.
Historical context, evolution of ammunition regulation in the U.S. The evolution of ammunition regulation in the United States is deeply intertwined with the nation's historical and social developments. From the early days of the Republic to the present, the approach to regulating the acquisition and possession of ammunition has undergone significant transformations, reflecting changing attitudes towards firearms and public safety. In the earliest years of the U.S., ammunition was largely unregulated, reflecting a society where firearms were essential tools for survival, hunting, and self-defense. The Founding Fathers, in crafting the Second Amendment, sought to ensure citizens' ability to protect themselves and their communities. This sentiment was rooted in the experiences of the American Revolution, where a well-armed citizenry played a crucial role in asserting independence. As the nation expanded westward, the need for firearms and ammunition continued to be paramount. This era saw the proliferation of guns and a relative absence of formal regulations on their acquisition or possession. Firearms were integral to daily life, with settlers relying on them for hunting, protection, and often for subsistence. The 19th century, however, brought about significant shifts in attitudes towards gun ownership and ammunition regulation. With the onset of the Civil War, the federal government recognized the strategic importance of controlling the production and distribution of firearms and ammunition. The establishment of arsenals and the regulation of firearms and ammunition manufacturing marked a departure from the laissez-faire approach of earlier times. The turn of the 20th century witnessed the emergence of more formalized ammunition regulations, driven in part by concerns over urbanization, rising crime rates, and a growing anti-gun sentiment. The National Firearms Act of 1934 imposed restrictions on certain types of firearms and accessories, laying the foundation for federal regulation of firearms and ammunition. Subsequent decades saw further legislative efforts at the federal level, including the Gun Control Act of 1968, which established more comprehensive regulations on firearms, including provisions related to ammunition sales. This period also saw the emergence of state-level regulations, with individual states implementing their own laws governing the acquisition and possession of ammunition. Today, the regulation of ammunition remains a complex patchwork of federal, state, and local laws. New York's recent implementation of dual background checks for ammunition purchases exemplifies the ongoing evolution of ammunition regulation in response to contemporary concerns about public safety. Impact on self-defense rights. The recent enactment of stringent ammunition purchasing regulations in New York has sparked a contentious debate regarding their impact on citizens' self-defense rights. Advocates of the Second Amendment argue that these new regulations fundamentally impede an individual's ability to protect themselves and their loved ones, thereby infringing upon their inherent right to self-defense. The cornerstone of the argument lies in the belief that firearms serve as a crucial tool for personal security. The Second Amendment, as envisioned by the Founding Fathers, was intended to afford citizens the means to defend themselves in times of imminent threat. By implementing onerous background checks for ammunition purchases, opponents argue that this right is significantly curtailed. They contend that possessing a firearm without access to ammunition effectively renders it a mere ornament, unable to serve its intended purpose as a tool for self-defense.
That's not a right of government. That's a right that each of us has as Americans.
A constitutionally protected industry would know something about firearms.
Critics of the new regulations express concerns that individuals may now face delays in obtaining ammunition, potentially leaving them vulnerable in urgent situations. In scenarios where immediate access to self-defense may be critical, such delays could prove detrimental. This raises questions about whether the new regulations inadvertently compromise the very principle of self-defense they aim to address. Additionally, the impact on marginalized communities is a focal point of discussion. Advocates for self-defense rights argue that stringent ammunition regulations may disproportionately affect vulnerable populations who rely on firearms for protection. This demographic includes individuals who may live in high-crime areas or those who may be subject to restraining orders, potentially leaving them with reduced means to ensure their safety. On the other hand, proponents of the regulation argue that they strike a necessary balance between public safety and individual rights. They contend that the stricter background checks are intended to prevent firearms from falling into the wrong hands, thereby reducing the potential for gun violence and accidents. In the midst of this debate, it is crucial to consider the nuanced perspectives and seek solutions that respect both the Second Amendment rights of citizens and the imperative to ensure public safety. Finding common ground that upholds the principles of self-defense while safeguarding against potential risks is essential in shaping effective and equitable firearms regulations. Ammo regulation controversy. In a surprising turn of events, a recent piece of legislation has sent shockwaves through the gun-owning community in New York State. Effective as of September 13th, a significant change now requires individuals to undergo not only the standard federal background check, but an additional, more comprehensive New York State background check in order to purchase ammunition. This development has ignited a firestorm of debates and discussions about its potential ramifications on the cherished Second Amendment rights of citizens. The practical implications of this new regulation are profound and far-reaching. What it essentially means is that even if someone has previously passed a background check to obtain a firearm, they are now mandated to repeat the process to acquire ammunition. This added layer of scrutiny on ammunition purchases has raised concerns among gun owners as they grapple with the potential logistical challenges and delays in obtaining necessary supplies. Critics of the law are quick to point out the inherent contradiction in this heightened focus on ammunition. They argue that by making it more arduous to purchase this essential component, the functionality of a firearm is severely compromised. In essence, without access to ammunition, a gun transforms into little more than a paperweight, stripped of its intended purpose and defensive capabilities. As the calendar marches forward, there's a growing sense of uncertainty among gun owners about what the future holds for ammunition purchases. The looming specter of 2024 adds an element of urgency to the discussion as individuals grapple with the potential ramifications of this legislation on their Second Amendment rights. Many are left wondering whether this law will set a precedent for more stringent regulations on firearms and ammunition in other states, and what this might mean for the broader landscape of gun ownership in America. In these turbulent times, the issue of gun control remains a contentious and polarizing subject. The recent legislative change in New York State underscores the complex balance between safeguarding public safety and preserving the rights of responsible gun owners. As the debate rages on, citizens, lawmakers, and activists alike are left to grapple with finding a middle ground that respects both the Second Amendment and the paramount importance of public well-being.
Ken Hartfield is running this line, stopping only to load powder into the brass hopper and drop tube.
One of the students in my school brought 3 guns to school, and our entire school went on lockdown.
Implications and challenges. The recent shift in New York's ammunition purchasing regulations has ignited a wave of concern and frustration among citizens. The requirement for both federal and state background checks for buying ammunition is perceived as a significant impediment to the intended purpose of firearms for self-defense. This move is seen as a departure from the vision of the Founding Fathers, who sought to ensure citizens' ability to protect themselves with firearms. Amidst this controversy, there is a prevailing skepticism regarding the potential for legal remedy. Many fear that even if the Supreme Court upholds Second Amendment rights, states such as New York have a tendency to double down on restricting those rights. This skepticism fuels the belief that this issue may not even reach the Supreme Court, effectively leaving the regulation in place for the foreseeable future. The impact of this regulation is acutely felt by residents of New York. Citizens now confront delays in purchasing ammunition, which could potentially curtail activities like hunting. The fear looms of an overwhelmed background check system, unable to cope with the anticipated surge in requests. As citizens grapple with these changes, the upcoming election emerges as a beacon of hope for those seeking modification. The democratic process is seen as the avenue through which citizens can exert their influence and potentially alter these regulations. This underscores the vital role of civic engagement in addressing this issue and shaping the landscape of gun rights in New York and beyond. Background check process for ammunition. The recent shift in ammunition purchasing regulations, particularly in New York, has brought the background check process for ammunition into sharp focus. This new requirement mandates that individuals must undergo a comprehensive background check before they can purchase ammunition. Understanding the intricacies of this process is crucial for gun owners and enthusiasts alike. The background check process for ammunition parallels that of firearms, with some key distinctions. When an individual attempts to purchase ammunition, the seller conducts a background check through the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. This system cross-references the buyer's information against databases of individuals prohibited from owning firearms or ammunition, such as convicted felons, those with restraining orders, and individuals with certain mental health conditions. In New York, the process is twofold. Alongside the federal NICS check, individuals must also pass a state-level background check. This state-specific check, performed by the New York Department of Criminal Justice Services, is designed to identify any additional disqualifying factors that may not be flagged in the federal database.
So many people who are opposed to the Second Amendment.
They gave him psychotropic drugs, and they put him back out on the street, and he killed people.
The state background check is a supplementary measure aimed at enhancing public safety within the state. The information required for a background check typically includes the buyer's personal details, such as their name, date of birth, and address. This information is then submitted to the NICS, which conducts the initial check. If any potential disqualifiers are identified, the transaction may be delayed while further investigation is conducted. In some cases, a proceed response is received almost immediately, indicating that there are no apparent red flags. While the background check process serves a crucial role in preventing firearms and ammunition from falling into the wrong hands, it is not without its challenges. Critics argue that it can be prone to errors or omissions, potentially leading to unjust denials or approvals. Additionally, there are concerns about the potential for backlogs, especially in states like New York, where there is an expected surge in background check requests. Understanding the background check process for ammunition is vital for gun owners and purchasers to navigate the evolving landscape of firearm regulations. It provides clarity on the steps involved and highlights the measures in place to uphold public safety while respecting the rights of responsible gun owners. As these regulations continue to evolve, staying informed about the process is essential for all those involved in the purchase and ownership of firearms and ammunition. New York ammo background changes. Currently, the FBI oversees these checks, ensuring that individuals seeking to buy a gun are eligible. However, under the new system, the New York State Police will act as intermediaries, connecting gun owners with the FBI for the background checks. This alteration doesn't only apply to firearms, it extends to ammunition as well. Last November, Governor Kathy Hochul signed the Concealed Carry Improvement Act into law, which included this change. This means that from next month onwards, individuals looking to purchase either firearms or ammunition will need to go through the state's police force for the requisite background checks. Importantly, this new process comes with associated fees. For a firearm background check, there will be an additional charge of $9, and for an ammunition check, it will be $2.50. While the intent behind these fees is to support the state's background check system, they have raised concerns among gun owners and retailers. Brandon Lewis, owner of the Firing Pin, a shooting range and retailer in Bergen, expressed apprehension about the additional layer of bureaucracy this change introduces. He pointed out that individuals already pay federal taxes that contribute to the FBI's NICS system, which conducts background checks. He also raised concerns about potential safety issues and noted that determined individuals might seek alternative means to acquire firearms. In response, the New York State Police emphasized that they are currently working to implement this legislative mandate. They confirmed that the process for gun background checks will remain largely similar to the existing procedure, while ammunition background checks will be a new requirement starting September 13. The legislation also mandates the collection of transaction fees to fund the state background check system.
Yeah, when I was in 11th grade and Joe Biden made our schools gun-free school zones.
Because law enforcement agencies simply just aren't ready for it yet. Measure 114 is set to take effect on Thursday.
Concerns. How will this affect gun owners? The implementation of new ammunition purchasing regulations, particularly in New York, has raised a host of concerns and challenges for gun owners across the state. These changes introduce a range of potential impacts, from logistical hurdles to broader questions about the balance between personal freedoms and public safety. Our immediate challenge arises from the requirement of passing both federal and state background checks for ammunition purchases. This means that gun owners, who may have already passed a background check to acquire their firearms, now face an additional layer of scrutiny when attempting to purchase ammunition. This process could potentially lead to delays and frustrations for individuals seeking to exercise their Second Amendment rights. Another significant concern revolves around accessibility. Gun owners in New York, particularly those in rural areas, may find it more difficult to obtain ammunition due to potential limitations in available vendors. As background checks become a prerequisite for ammunition purchases, smaller and independent sellers may face logistical challenges in complying with these new regulations. This could lead to reduced options for gun owners, potentially impacting their ability to acquire ammunition in a timely manner.
The Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, Mr.
Ballistics are doing checks, and then of course we have our visual inspection at our Packer area.
There are fears of potential backlogs in the background check system. With the surge in requests expected in the wake of these new regulations, there is a legitimate concern that the system may become overwhelmed. This could result in significant delays for gun owners, particularly those who rely on ammunition for activities like hunting or sport shooting. It raises questions about the efficiency and capacity of the background check infrastructure to handle this increased demand. Additionally, there are economic implications for both gun owners and businesses. The additional administrative burden of conducting background checks for ammunition sales may lead to increased costs for vendors. These costs could potentially be passed on to consumers, making ammunition more expensive and potentially limiting accessibility for some gun owners. Beyond the logistical challenges, there are broader concerns about the potential precedent these regulations may set. Some gun owners worry that this shift in regulations may pave the way for further restrictions on Second Amendment rights. They fear that this is part of a broader trend of increasing scrutiny and regulation on gun ownership, potentially eroding the rights that they hold dear. Ultimately, these challenges and concerns underscore the complex nature of balancing individual rights with public safety. While the goal of preventing firearms and ammunition from falling into the wrong hands is a noble one, it is crucial to consider the potential impacts on responsible gun owners. Striking a balance that upholds both personal freedoms and public safety will be a key consideration as these regulations continue to evolve. Role of New York State in shaping ammunition laws. New York State has played a pivotal role in shaping ammunition laws, setting a precedent for firearm regulations that have reverberated across the nation. The state's approach to ammunition legislation has been marked by a combination of proactive measures aimed at enhancing public safety and addressing concerns surrounding gun violence. One of the hallmark changes instituted by New York State is the requirement for individuals to undergo both federal and state background checks when purchasing ammunition.
A pistol brace is also known, this scary piece of equipment here,
for gun purchases by 2 months. It is part of Measure 114, which voters passed in November.
The core mission is to prevent and protect the American people from violent crime.
This dual check system is a distinctive feature of New York's approach, distinguishing it from many other states. By implementing this stringent process, the state aims to bolster its efforts to prevent firearms and ammunition from falling into the wrong hands. This dual check system has been met with a mixed reception. Advocates argue that it adds an extra layer of security, enabling a more comprehensive evaluation of an individual's eligibility to purchase ammunition. By incorporating both federal and state checks, New York State takes a proactive stance in ensuring that potential disqualifiers are thoroughly scrutinized. However, critics of a system contend that it may result in logistical challenges and potential delays for law-abiding gun owners. The surge in background check requests is anticipated to put a strain on the system, potentially leading to backlogs. This could have practical implications for individuals seeking to purchase ammunition for activities such as hunting or sport shooting. Furthermore, New York State has demonstrated a commitment to adopting a comprehensive approach to firearm regulations. This includes initiatives focused on gun safety, mental health support, and community-based violence prevention programs. By taking a multi-pronged approach, the state seeks to address the complex web of factors contributing to gun violence. Additionally, New York State has been at the forefront of enacting laws to address specific types of firearms and accessories. For example, the state has implemented restrictions on high-capacity magazines and assault weapons. These measures are aimed at reducing the potential lethality of firearms in the event of a mass shooting or violent incident. The state's efforts have not gone without legal challenges. Advocacy groups and individuals have raised concerns about potential infringements on Second Amendment rights. These legal battles have contributed to the broader national conversation about the boundaries of individual gun rights versus the need for public safety. Overall, New York State's approach to shaping ammunition laws reflects a commitment to finding a balance between personal freedoms and public safety. By implementing stringent background check requirements, enacting comprehensive gun safety measures, and addressing specific types of firearms, the state has positioned itself as a trailblazer in firearm regulation. The role of New York in influencing national dialogue on gun control is a testament to its proactive stance in the face of ongoing concerns surrounding gun violence. A shift in background checks and fees. The recent changes in New York State's ammunition purchasing regulations represent a significant shift in the way background checks are conducted for individuals seeking to buy ammunition. As of September 13, gun retailers are now required to submit background checks on ammunition purchases directly to the New York State Police, rather than to the FBI as was the previous procedure. This adjustment is part of a broader gun legislation signed by Governor Kathy Hochul last year, signaling a proactive approach to firearm regulation within the state. Under the new system, once a customer initiates a background check for ammunition, the gun retailer will relay their information to a state trooper, who will then contact the National Instant Criminal Background Check System operated by the FBI. This marks a departure from the previous process, where retailers directly communicated with NICS. The sale can only be finalized upon receiving a proceed response from the state's NICS. What's noteworthy about this change is that passing a firearm background check does not automatically guarantee a successful ammunition background check. This nuance introduces an additional layer of scrutiny for individuals seeking to acquire ammunition, further emphasizing the state's commitment to rigorous oversight of ammunition sales.
Because he was the only person with a gun. There was no good guy with a gun.
Earlier this year, the ATF issued a rule that unilaterally puts new restrictions on Second Amendment rights.
If the judge agrees to the postponement, then starting in February, anyone who purchases a gun in Oregon will be required to have a permit.
Gives private citizens the right to possess a firearm, including a pistol.
In the event that an individual fails the ammunition background check, they have a 30-day window to appeal the decision, according to state police. This appeals process is an important safeguard to ensure that individuals are given the opportunity to address any discrepancies or inaccuracies that may have led to a denial. It's worth noting that the implementation of these new regulations comes with associated fees. A firearm background check will incur a $9 fee, while an ammunition check will cost $2.50. These fees are intended to support the state's NICS unit and the broader background check system. While the fees serve to offset the administrative costs of conducting these checks, they also underscore the financial aspect of firearm and ammunition regulation. However, despite the intent behind these changes, local gun shops are grappling with the practical implications of navigating the new system. The shift in responsibility from directly interfacing with NICS to relying on state troopers as intermediaries introduces a new layer of complexity. Tyler Mira, the general manager of the firing pin, expressed concern about the potential for complications as more elements are introduced into the process. In assumption, the recent adjustments in New York State's ammunition purchasing regulations mark a significant departure from previous practices. The shift in background check procedures, with state police acting as intermediaries between gun retailers and NICS, reflects a concerted effort to tighten oversight on ammunition sales. The introduction of fees for background checks further underscores the financial considerations entwined with firearms and ammunition regulation. However, the concerns expressed by local gun shops also highlight the challenges of implementing these changes in practice, emphasizing the importance of effective communication and adaptation within the firearms retail industry. Public reaction, mixed opinions, and controversy. The recent changes in ammunition purchasing regulations in New York State have sparked a diverse array of reactions from the public, ranging from staunch support to vehement opposition. This mixed response underscores the complexity and sensitivity of the issue, reflecting the diverse perspectives that exist within society regarding gun rights and public safety. On one side of the spectrum, there are those who applaud the new regulations as a critical step towards enhancing public safety. Advocates argue that implementing stringent background checks for ammunition purchases is a responsible measure to prevent firearms and ammunition from falling into the wrong hands. They contend that this approach aligns with broader efforts to curb gun violence and protect communities from potential harm. Furthermore, Proponents of the regulations argue that they strike a necessary balance between individual rights and collective safety. On the other hand, opponents argue that these regulations may not necessarily address the root causes of gun violence, which often involve complex societal issues. They contend that a more holistic approach, including initiatives focused on mental health support, community-based violence prevention programs, and responsible gun ownership education, should be considered. In summary, the public reaction to the recent changes in ammunition purchasing regulations in New York State reflects the deeply entrenched and divergent viewpoints surrounding gun rights and public safety. While some view these regulations as a necessary step towards enhancing public safety, others see them as an encroachment on individual rights. The debate highlights the need for ongoing dialogue and thoughtful consideration of the complex issues surrounding gun regulation in the United States. That's all for this video, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.